Good morning, all. So we're getting started about 10 minutes behind schedule. Not sure if you can hear us. The mad scientist is tinkering. I guess he. I've known Keith, for a good number of years, and if I tell you about him, it's really nice to have. He's been a key advisor to me, basically. For those, many people don't know, I'm not a technology guy. I'm just kind of a program manager, and so I surround myself with, some really top-notch talent, and Keith kind of sits at the top of that food chain. By way of background, he's a South Carolinian, which is very unusual in the technology world. A lot of folks kind of moved here and everything else. And where in South Carolina, Keith? Hartsville, South Carolina. And went to the governor's school and College Charleston, then Clemson University, and a master's in electrical engineering. So his whole world is electrical engineering, I guess, from Clemson. And then following that, basically, dating him a little bit, basically got into the federal government, basically, and primarily in Cold War and post-Cold War activities, where, using his background, they developed some of the technologies that he's now working on to implement commercially in the sound, hearing, and he'll talk about that in just a minute. A real interesting background. I think, for the most part, basically has been involved with the U.S. federal government and other governments around the world. So he's one of those guys who really can't. He still holds secrets that he can't talk about. I guess from the Cold War days, which is kind of interesting. Every now and again, over a beer, and the right kind of beer, he'll divulge it for you and tell me he's going to kill me if I basically tell anybody. But I think it's interesting because the technologies that Keith has worked on since I've known him are now coming into mainstream, and that's what the presentation is today about. It's not just the sort of, as popular as this is, it's probably the lowest item on the food chain. Some of the stuff he's working on. So that's kind of interesting. We think of it as cutting edge. He was working on this 10, 15 years ago and knows how it works and that kind of thing. So, well, thank you all. We're going to jump into Keith's presentation. Appreciate all of you guys being here. These are reasonably informal. So depending on how Keith runs this, you can ask questions along the way, or you can kind of ask towards the end of the presentation. And that's it. Keith, I'll let you take it over.
All right. I'll be blinded by the light, so I can find a place to stand. There we go. So Ernest kind of gave my background. I've always, since university, been on kind of the high-tech side of life and the spooky side of life, but I won't go into that part. But I think Ernest is also right that the things that I've tended to work on, I've worked on them 20 years in advance, or at least 10 years in advance of when they actually arrived on the consumer market. So back in my government days, I worked on a little thing called GPS, right? Except it wasn't such a little thing. One GPS receiver that you would put was about this big, about that thick. You could pretty much hide it in a 2x4 piece of wood if you carved it out, and you wouldn't have a whole lot of wood left over, right? They were huge, and now everyone in here's got a smartphone, and the chip's about that big, right? That's how far the technology can come in 20 odd years. We were doing that in the early 1990s, right? And so now it's 2017, right? So, of course, once it kind of burst out on the scene, it sucked up all the air, right? So what have been the technologies that everybody's been chasing in the last 20 years? GPS, that was easy.
RFID?
Huh?
RFID?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I was going to go back to one that's on your phone, though. Anybody remember Handycam? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like about what Mike's got back there, right? Shoulder mount, you got to be a certain age, right? Now it's in your phone with a lot better resolution, 1080p, yada, yada, yada. Okay, anything else? Bluetooth,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's pretty much sucked up all the air in technology for the last 20 years, right? We got the iPod, Yeah, but that was just an excuse to listen to very bad music on little cheap earbuds in a noisy place, right? So if I put on, forensics quality headphones and listen to an MP3 recording, right? It just drives me crazy. Anybody else who spends time under the headphones knows that. MP3 stinks unless you're using, well, these are not my Apple ones. These are like $200 a piece, but yeah. I can't stand to listen to bad audio. But nobody's been doing audio for years, with the exception of MP3. So, audio's changed a lot, though. So back in the 1970s, we got this guy. Well, you're saying you used to have this as a t-shirt? Yeah. Who knows the company that did this ad? Yep. The ads back then was, is it live or is it Memorex? Right, where you play the recording of Ella Fitzgerald or whoever breaking the glass, right? This guy, we don't do the wall of sound anymore, right? It's more the earbuds in the ears. Digital audio came out in the 1980s. It was on something called a CD, right? And then hearing aids caught up. Right? So hearing aids, all of a sudden, instead of being the big ear trumpet, right, ended up being something that went behind your ear. Right? And you did, not the big clunky device you held in your hand. Believe it or not, everybody's heard of cochlear implants now, right? They actually came out originally in the 1980s. Was the first experiments. I'm not sure I would have wanted to be one of the first test subjects, but yeah, it's taken 20 odd years for those to come about. So you got this 20-year cycle in technology. Then that's when the bad thing happened and MP3 came out. Then instead of getting high fidelity audio, we got, pardon my expression, crap audio. And then Bluetooth, Wi-Fi. But all of a sudden, everything old is new again. And I'm not talking about leisure suits. All of a sudden, audio is important again because we're finally doing the thing from Star Trek. Oops. Who remembers the Star Trek movie when Scotty, when they go back in time to San Francisco, and he goes into the facility, he needs transparent aluminum, right? And of course, we didn't have that. So he goes into a metal fabrication facility, sits down, and they've got this brand spanking new Apple IIe, right? And he sits down to the Mac, and he says, "Computer," right? I can't do Scottish. And it doesn't say anything, and the guy looks at him like he's weird and points at the mouse. And of course, Scotty picks up the mouse, "Computer," right? And then he's back to typing on the keyboard. But that's what everybody's been doing. Why did BlackBerry become so famous, so important? And the keyboard, you could type dang fast on an old BlackBerry keyboard. I'm dating myself again. But now people want to move away from that, right? I don't have overdeveloped thumbs. I'm slow typing on my smartphone. People want to talk to the computer. Well, this has that even longer than 20-year history. Talking to your computer started back in the 1960s, right, at Bell Laboratories, which disappeared with the breakup of the Baby Bells and came back. It's got a slightly different name now. But back then, you had a 10-word vocabulary. That's all the computers could understand. 10 words, and it was the 10 words, like the numbers 1 through 10, right? That then got put on ice. There was this director of Bell Labs that decided that this technology was never going anywhere, and he defunded it, right? It wasn't until a colleague of mine, now passed on, Dr. James Flanagan, came in and took over Bell Labs that he brought it back. But by then, the Soviets, remember the Soviet Union? Yeah, they were getting involved, and they went from 10 words up to 220, right? Their big advance was understanding that people don't talk in a regular cadence unless you speak Spanish, right? So particularly English is non-syllabic timing, right? We don't have a cadence, and we can draw, right? No linguists in here, yeah. Then DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, in the 1970s took it up to 1,000 words. Now we're cooking with gas, right? IBM, 20,000. And then Dragon Systems, Dragon Naturally Speaking, ring a bell to anybody? Right? They came out with something that was called a large vocabulary. It only worked on adults though, right? If a child talked into it, they have a different vocal tract length and couldn't understand children. $9,000 a copy. I had one. All right, who was the call center type people here?
That's it.
Yeah, all right, here you go. Interactive voice response, does that ring a bell? Right, first big rollout, right? You call up your credit card company, you call into the PBX of the company, and all of a sudden, this female voice talks to you and asks you questions. And then you press on the touchpad originally, and then eventually it could recognize limited vocabulary as long as you were reading out your credit card numbers. Remember 10-word vocabulary? Yeah. And then it just caught on like wildfire. But it was all phone-based, very scripted. You got a flow chart. You do not deviate from the flow chart, and you can end up in automated voice response hell, right? Little circle of hell over there, you can't get out. Except hang up, try again. All right, now we're with the modern generation. Who is this? Yes. What is he holding? iPhone 4S. The first really good one, right? So he had a little feature on it called Siri, right? And Siri was great because Siri was the first conversational system that reached mass deployment, right? Everybody still uses Siri occasionally, right? Siri, most of the time if anybody gets a text from me when I'm driving, I'm not at a stoplight, I'm dictating to Siri into my phone. Yeah. Apple didn't develop that technology. It was by this same company here, right? Although, there was lots of mergers and acquisitions and all that. But it's the same original 4 companies now all bought each other up and merged and this, that, and the other, and they're called Nuance now. And they powered, and I think may still power Siri. And it's still phone-based. When I'm phone-based, where's my mouth? And where's the microphone? Right? That's the key. Right? The microphone needs to be near the mouth. When I'm talking on the phone for the IVR system, where's my mouth? Where's the microphone? The microphone's hearing me loud and clearly, right? But there's a problem. Anybody been in the Starbucks next door? Try to have a conversation there during rush hour, right? Without talking loudly or sitting real close. Devices have the same problem, right? You get into a noisy situation or a distance situation, and there's not much sound that's clear at the microphone. Right? How I explain it to people is, it's quiet in here except for that fan noise I hear buzzing around, but say you're talking to me, and I'm at this distance. You're banging it right there, right? Now, if all of y'all start kind of muttering to yourselves, I mean, really, please. So this is the noise level, and he's talking the same level. So all of a sudden, when your muttering gets as loud as his voice at my ear, can I understand anything? Occasional word, right? Or something that he really puts some energy behind, right? Now, if instead I could direct my listening, then all of a sudden he's going to be louder, and I can back off further and further until I reach that kind of critical distance again. He's still going to be loud enough as long as I can just listen toward him. So this is directional audio pickup, right? And that's the whole key. You're just trying to make sure you got more of him than all of you, right? So that's where this little lady comes in. Oh, sorry, I skipped. I said this out loud. Yeah, this thing's got a brain. You got a brain. Devices hearing, people hearing, it's all based on the same thing. For the technical people in the room, it's called signal to noise ratio. The signal, that's what I want to hear, and the noise. And you want the signal to be at least as loud as the noise, preferably louder, right? To get good understanding. Anybody in here know anybody who's hearing impaired beside me? You just met me. Yeah. What happens when a hearing impaired person walks into a Starbucks? Can they hear very well? Even with hearing aids, most likely they're going to take the hearing aids out and put them in their pocket. They're going to get feedback squeal, or the hearing aid's hearing the wrong stuff. It's hearing all that noise. This little lady has the same problem. Alexa, good morning. She was working a little bit ago. Alexa, can you hear me? Uh-oh.
Coffee?
No, actually, I think I connected through CDC guest, and there's probably a timeout that I've got to go and touch the button to continue on the internet. It's probably just as well, because I'm going to say her name a lot, so she's going to keep trying to respond, or would. I had it working when we started, but everybody in here's dealt with an Alexa at some point, right? She has the same problem, right? My office is next door, right? When the air conditioning system turns on, I've got to get on top of her and shout at her. The air conditioner vents on the other side of the room. If more than one or two other people are in the room with me, and anybody talks, and I'm trying to talk to Alexa, she picks up a garble between my voice and my words and the other people's words. So it makes sense. Right? You can see how that happens. But it's still really great, because if the room is quiet, I can stand 6-10 feet away and talk to Alexa. If I shout, I can move even further away, but then the reverb, right, the reverberation of sound bouncing around the room messes her up. Right? But it's a lot better than it was before. Now, how does it do that? This is the inside of one of these ladies, an Echo Dot, or a full-size Echo with the top taken off. And there, and in the center are microphones. Right? So instead of having the one mic or two mics in the phone that you're holding up by your mouth, all of a sudden you've got several times more microphones. Right? That's the secret of why this works. It's an array of microphones, or to reverse the word order, a microphone array. Why do you want to do that? Now, if I want to hear more of him, would having more microphones help? Yeah, so I take the sound off of one mic and the sound off another mic, the sound off all those 7 mics together, and I add it all together. So he's going to be 7 times louder, right? Anybody remember these guys over here? These are coming back into vogue now, right? To get local TV and not pay your cable bill, you just do Hulu or whatever, and rabbit ears are back. It's like everything old is new again.
As long as you have 10 more.
Yeah. Anybody remember one of these? Channel Master. Yeah, 20 channels, 28 channels at one time. This could let you pick up television not next door, but miles and miles and miles away. And it goes on top of your house with a rotor and swings around. Now we've got satellite dishes instead, pointed toward one satellite. That's one big antenna, transmitter up in the sky. But this one you had to know where your television stations were. It was on a telephone pole or strapped to the chimney of your house, and you had a little rotor control down on top of your TV, and you would turn it here, and the little motor would swing the antenna around and point toward, channel 10 or channel 3 or whatever. But it's the same stuff. right? What you want to do is hear there and not all this other stuff, just like a TV antenna. You want to hear more. I can collect radio waves with there and with that, so I got 2 times the signal. And then this guy, woo, right? I get lots of different collections of signal in lots of different places. Why do you have 2 ears instead of 1?
Directionality.
Bingo. So you can hear left and right. Okay. It's a little bit like losing vision in one eye. Okay. What's that called? This ability when you got 2 eyes.
Stereo.
Stereoscopic, but depth perception is the ability you get out of it. So here's an exercise. Everybody wait. All right, close one eye. I don't care what you want. Right? Oh, coffee cups. Put the coffee cups down. Yeah. So extend your arms. Point your fingers. One eye's closed. Point your fingers at each other. Bend one of your elbows. Now, without cheating, quickly try to touch your fingers together, fingertips together. You cheated. All right? Now, try to do it with 2 eyes open. You should be able to get that one, right? So, being blind in one eye, you lose most of your depth perception. You don't lose all of it, all right, but you lose most of it, all right? Losing hearing in one ear, or a little bit in both ears, does the same thing to your brain, but it does it with audio. So somebody with hearing loss, the reason why they need hearing aids is because they can't sort out the conversations anymore, because they can't understand the depth and pick out your voice from her voice from his voice, right? They don't lose it completely, just like I can still figure out, even with being blind in one eye, if one object gets in front of another object, I've got some depth perception because I've got, one object obscures the other object. My brain has to work for it, though. I have to stop and consciously think about it. Same thing with you've got hearing loss. You've got to kind of sort it out. Unfortunately, even with Amazon and the cloud, Alexa's not quite that smart. All right? So, back on the track of my talk, though, this is why we want to have more than one microphone. Just like we need more than one eye and more than one ear to really understand what he said, directionality, right? To be able to get that depth perception. So, as I said though, time the air conditioner turns on or other people start talking, Alexa gets confused, right? And the reason, oh, you heard me that time. We back on the air? Alexa, hello.
Hello.
Alexa, tell me a knock-knock joke.
Knock knock. Who's there? Let us. Let us who? Let us in. It's cold outside.
That's not a joke.
Yeah. So, like I said, if we won't go through this exercise right now, but if several of y'all started talking and I tried to speak to Alexa, what do you think is going to happen? Right? And sometimes not even when you get right on top of it, because I can tell you I've got 4 kids at the house, a mother-in-law and a wife, and Alexa, everybody's got, could y'all shut up? I need to talk to Alexa. I'm sorry. Microphone arrays are not perfect, particularly when you've got to make the compromises in engineering to build something that sells for $35 on sale. Yeah, I don't think they're making a lot of money on the hardware. Right? They make compromises, and they don't have our technology. So, and I apologize, Mike. I'm sure probably gets this one. This is the pickup pattern for something that's even a little bit better than this guy. This is an 8 microphone circular array. The microphones here are in a circle, right? What I want you to pick up on this is what Alexa thinks she's listening to, right? The direction, right? Straight ahead. But all these sounds leak in And you can see that the only difference between Alexa, you see the little LED light ring? I'll try to do it. Alexa. So she thinks she's pointing that way. So she's listening to me only slightly better than everything else in the room. It's not that big of a performance increase, but it looks cool, right? This is what we fix. So that's Alexa and hearing aids and everything else that claims to do directional audio where there's only a little modest improvement. This is what the test of ours do, right? So we don't hear behind you. We don't hear to the side. I mean, a little bit, not much. So we are a truly directional company. And we do it in lots of different form factors. We do a wearable version. Remember that big antenna, long TV antenna with a corner reflector and all the little, yeah. This does the same thing. So with this device, with the wearable device, smart garment, we can go out in the parking lot here and I can hear every word you say if you're talking the level that I'm talking from about 40 yards away, 50 yards, right? With this guy, y'all ever seen the big parabolic mic dishes they use on American football fields? You know, they listen about 50 yards away from the sideline, but it's big, heavy shoulder pads, right? This is the same thing, but it works twice as far. So you can pick up somebody's speech at the level that I'm talking, not a lineman or a quarterback making calls, shouting, but the level I'm talking to you right now, we can pick you up at 100 yards with this. And this is a microphone array too. We did this with the National Institute of Science and Technology, or Standards and Technology. This is a microphone array embedded in a Snap-on laptop cover, right? Made for smart meeting room projects and students in lecture auditorium. So you can steer it, this stays still, and with your finger on the app, you can steer it around, listen over here, listen over there, listen over there, like Alexa does, but this works about 100 times better. So using, Amazon skills, right? Alexa skills. That's what we do. We bring new skills to this area because we can hear a noise, and when you're hearing 100 yards away, we can hear over distance too. And so that's where we are in our product development cycle. We do all these things, specialty projects for little government research contracts and operational deployments with special forces and such as that. But now we're transitioning to bring it out of the DoD side and the law enforcement side of the house and bring it out to mass market to fix things like that. We're really appreciative toward Alexa, right, toward Amazon for making microphone arrays cool.
I don't know that one.
Well, kind of cool, yeah. So, we started coming out from the shadows, so to speak, and took the hearing vest and a research hospital, national level research hospital in Omaha. Y'all have heard of Father Flanagan's School, right? Boys Town National Research Hospital, founded by Father Flanagan. Not Midwesterners in here, obviously. So they're the probably #1 hearing research and treatment hospital in the United States. So they've got team sound chambers and bring in these kids and adults too for testing all the time and treatment. So they compared our vest against all the existing technologies, right? So they did it against a $2,000 hearing aid that goes behind the ear. They did it against a microphone array, directional, adaptive hearing aid that's like $6,000 an ear. And then against a handheld mic, called a Roger pen, that's used in schools for students that have hearing loss, and they point at the teacher or their classmate, and it talks to their hearing aid directly. Well, The $2,000 hearing aid is this teal-like color, and ladies, don't bother correcting me, I'm a guy, I don't know colors, right? But this color that's in the outer ring here,
Sign.
is he right, ladies? So I teach during the summer at the Governor's School of Science and Math, and I teach forensics. One of the things that I teach is audio, video, and computer forensics, and we talk a lot about human color perception. And so every year, I break up the class between the girls and the guys. Every single year, the girls completely trump the guys on every vision test to do with color.
Women are just
Shades,
smarter.
hints. Huh?
Women are just smarter to start with.
Well, actually, and this is probably politically incorrect to say, but women and men are not the same, in particular in the vision processing system. I was in Thailand one time and went into a jewelry store to buy, bring back my gifts and keep the lady folk happy. And I went into the jewelry store where they're actually making the jewelry, right? So you can buy, uncut things and such as that. And I noticed that the only guy in there that worked there was the manager. Everybody else was women. And I was there for a couple of hours having something made, and so I asked him, I said, I don't understand. And he goes, oh, you're not allowed to be a certified gemologist in Thailand unless you're female. He said, it costs the companies too much money, and people will get ripped off. So only ladies are allowed to do it because they have much better, finer color perception than men do. Anyway, back on track. I'm a geek. Did y'all figure that out? I'm full of all these little semi-useful or useless facts. So, just like on that chart that I showed you a few minutes ago, I want to listen here. I want to listen to zero. Zero's that guy. No offense. And so I'm in the center here. This is behind me, to the right, to the left. So what this chart tells me is that with a $2,000 hearing aid, I really hear it great when I'm trying to listen to him. Guess where I'm hearing best? I'm hearing the person over to the side at Starbucks better than I'm hearing him. Right? Because 90 is, the data point here is actually pushed further out than straight ahead. I hear off and to the right better than I hear straight ahead. And I hear stuff behind me over this way pretty well. So you see the issue? You understand why when people with a hearing aid walk into a Starbucks or an Olive Garden or wherever old folks hang out, they just take them out and put them in the pocket because they're hearing other things better than the person they're talking with. Yeah. Here's a $6,000 hearing aid in the purple, I think. It's hearing off to the right better than straight ahead. So it's a little bit better. I mean, it is better than the $2,000 hearing aid. I'm glad you're getting something for the extra $4,000 per ear. But it's still listening over there when I'm trying to listen there. The blue works, but that's this handheld microphone. So it's like you're always giving an interview. What did you say? I didn't catch that. And guess who the red is? And all I got to do is just turn. Wherever I'm turned is what I'm hearing. It's like I'm wearing that big parabolic dish or that Channel Master antenna on my chest underneath my clothes. No, who needs it? We're not business to consumer. Right now we're business to government, right? And next we're going business to sell to the Costco's, to the whoever.
Are you guys selling to these companies today?
Nope, we're in NDA stage. I just went to the UK to talk to a multi-billion-dollar company, and we've had ongoing negotiations with one of the major automobile parts manufacturers for in-the-car sound. So, yeah,
I think
just now, we just got the last patent that we just absolutely had to have, got awarded last week, August 1st. So now we're gonna get busy. I heard another question.
Yeah, the issue, Keith, seems to be pretty acute in a car when on the highway, just
Yes.
just that noise. And so, I mean, clearly the applications are, wide, but, okay, so Alexa basically, I mean, it's Amazon, it's Google Home,
Yeah.
but it's Apple, it's Siri. I mean, clearly they're paying
Sorry,
attention.
I'm not sure.
Clearly they're paying attention to this, and who do you think, from a race standpoint, is best suited to bring out the next generation?
I haven't met the array people from Apple. I've met the ones from Microsoft Research. We've had discussions with them. I've met the ones from Amazon. Right? I haven't, like I said, I haven't talked to the ones from Apple. I would say that the ones from Microsoft are really, really brilliant. What's his name? Ivan Takshev is one of the brightest array minds out there. But the ones from Amazon know how to make a product and push it out to everybody, right? So if I was going to put my money on the best business winner, it'd be Amazon. They know what they're doing. They know how to push technology to the masses and figure out how to make money off of it. Like most of your Microsoft laptops actually has a microphone ring in it, whether you know it or not. It's in the bezel around the frontward facing side of the screen. And that was done by Microsoft Research, right? This, for some reason, they didn't patent accessory covers or the back side. They only patented microphones on the bezel on the keyboard facing side because they were trying to get you as you're typing on the computer or doing a Skype.
I think Microsoft will put that in also in the HoloLens that's coming out.
Yeah.
It's no way there as well, I think.
Yeah, we haven't tried to play in the AR, VR realm yet. We keep getting asked to, but quite frankly, at our size, being a kind of stealth company, lean company, where the AR, VR market is so specialty, and don't take this wrong, but I'm not sure if there's going to be any winners coming out of that for the next 10 years. I think, Gartner has this hype cycle for technology. I think we're very quickly entering the hype phase, and we're going to get to the next disillusionment phase, and then come through the trough of disillusionment and get to the plateau of attainment or something like that. So that's my suspicion is where it's going to go, a little bit like Google Glasses. People get all hot, and then it's like, this stuff doesn't work, it's overpriced, yada, 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 right? And then they'll figure out how to make money off of it, is my expectation.
So, folks from Moneypenny here, I have to ask the question. So call centers are typically very employee intense.
Yeah.
Do you see the technologies, basically, I'm just kind of now taking it into the business side. Do you see the applications of the microwave technology basically causing that industry to completely be automated?
I'd have to think about that a little bit. How do I say it? I can only imagine that the interactive voice response systems started having difficulty when you went to mobile telephones and people driving, like you're talking about, in the car with all that noise, right? The windows rolled down, the music playing, and then trying to use these systems, right? Our technology will improve the audio that's incoming to those systems, right? In actual office environments, that's what NIST was having us look at, the smart meeting rooms and things like that, where you, like you see this punched metal panel right there. That could just as easily be one of our arrays that you just have on just plop into your ceiling and it Bluetooths to your telephone or whatever. And so if I'm anywhere underneath this, you're gonna hear, my breathing, right? It's just that directional pickup, even if other people are talking, right? There's a company called Clear One that's really, the market leader in that. And quite frankly, their technology is about as good as that, right? But they make tons of money. It's amazing how much their revenue churn is. So the technology's coming out, and there will be market winners, right? But how do I say it? The technology doesn't live up to the hype yet, and that's what we're doing. We're able to actually do what we say we're doing. You know, you read, we laugh at reading the hearing aid ads. You know, the ones that come in the Sunday Circular. You know, they make it sound like you can just walk in anywhere, be standing next to a Dreamliner with the engine going, and you're going to hear perfectly, right? It just, they don't work. It's, you know, you saw my chart there. They barely do anything for you at all, except when it's quiet. They do reduce the divorce rate. Right? Because at home, right, one spouse wants the TV certain loud so they can hear, and the other one's upset that it's too loud, right? So in a quiet environment, Alexa works just great, and so do hearing aids, but not when you get in the Starbucks. It's all him.
Yeah, I was just thinking
Sorry,
in terms of...
I don't know that.
Really? I was thinking in terms of like privacy issues. Like this is great for, obviously, you know, if you're going to sell it to a business like Amazon or a car company, and that's great for a consumer. But are there any privacy issues, like, you know, if the average human being wanted to pick up a conversation between, you know, a business client down the block or a competitor? Just curious if there are any privacy issues that you heard.
There aren't, but they're the same privacy issues you would have if, say, you used a parabolic dish against somebody, or a radio bug, or you just dropped the phone somewhere near them and walked off, right? The phone's the best spy bug the CIA probably has, for multiple reasons. That does lead to an interesting line of thought, though. Privacy law in the U.S. and all the Western countries is based upon your expectation of privacy, or your reasonable expectation of privacy. Everybody knows that if you're standing out on the other end of a football field, that we can see you. As long as there's nothing obscuring you in the way, you can see a long way. That's why these video security cameras are everywhere. You have no reasonable expectation of visual privacy until you get in your home and close the blinds. And if somebody comes up and peeps through your blinds, then they're a peeping Tom. Right? But audio privacy, people don't expect to be heard very far away unless they raise their voice. Right? So that's where this type of distance hearing thing becomes important. So the typical joke, nobody said it yet, but there was somewhat that scandal with the football league where they were listening to the other team. Yeah, that's what everybody says is going to happen with our stuff. I did just hit the mute button on Alexa, so what you just said wasn't reported to Amazon.
I have two questions. One, so like your red polygon on your chart there is very directional.
Yeah.
So for something like a hearing aid solution, or even just person-to-person in general, is that tunable? Like if I were hearing impaired and I'm walking on the sidewalk, I want to be more aware and focused.
Remember I was telling you about that guy where you just use your finger to steer it?
Well, no, I don't mean steering. I mean like tuning to make it less directional.
Oh, yeah.
Dynamically.
So think about it. We can just drop microphones out of the array. To talk technical for just a bit.
Okay.
And that for every mic you drop out of the array, it just broadens up the beam until you get an omnidirectional.
Right.
One microphone hears everywhere, right?
Cool. Good to know. And then my other thing was, so is your company focused on just the acquisition of an audio stream, or are you doing like linguistic processing and stuff like that?
Yeah, we're just on the capture. We're too small, lean. We're sticking to our knitting. We do this very well.
Yeah. Cool.
Now, we have partnered with other people, like we did this commercial project for a telephony company, telephony processing company, where we developed an automatic accent and language identification algorithm. Right, so with 5 seconds of speech, you can not only determine the language, but also get the accent. So we don't do a lot of consumer work or commercial work. Today we're still mostly a B2G company, but we already do some B2B.
I wanted to put one sort of issue with that, you know, probably, I guess you know this. So there's this, I mean, somebody just said to me yesterday, day before, when they found out you were speaking, said, oh, you need to ask Keith about this. This notion that basically now with machine learning, that Alexa's always on, listening to every conversation in the house, is it an always on kind of device? Or not just Alexa, but Google's Home, and what, and are they pulling out and then kind of using their, you know, massive machine to kind of push ads and that kind of thing? I mean, that's.
All right, so the current way that it's implemented is it's not listening all the time in a way that anything gets transmitted back to Amazon, right? So Alexa has a processor in it, and it's programmed with a very good understanding of the word Alexa. It probably understands Alexa about as good as a human being, right? It probably only messes up with me 2 times out of 100, right? Where it misidentifies some other combination of words to be Alexa, right? So until it hears Alexa or its wake-up word, it doesn't transmit anything back, right? So that's just basically, that sound never left the room, unless you're the target of an FBI operation, or your cheating spouse, but yeah.
But that's by design.
Once the wake-up word, yes, exactly. They don't want the bandwidth, they don't want the privacy invasion issues, yada, yada, yada. Although you do, of course, have to tick all the, give up your right to everything, when you install the app. But when the wake-up word occurs, Alexa then starts listening, takes that audio snippet and sends it back, right? And it's correlated with the lights on top, so you know when she quits listening, right? But as long as she's listening, it does send it back, just like Siri and all the rest of these, to the cloud to do all this speech recognition processing, right? And that data is held. I haven't looked lately to see what the privacy agreements say, but that data is stored for some time in the cloud, right? And I know that various law enforcement agencies have tried to get access to that. As far as I can recall, it's only really been used in one murder investigation that I can think of.
Right, there was a murder case, and Amazon didn't want to share the data.
Yeah.
But so apparently there is a lock. That's where the privacy issue is. Comes along. Everything you're saying to Alexa is being logged somewhere, and anyone, Amazon or any company that could, take advantage of that, of course.
Yeah. But it's the same for any of these. I mean,
Right.
the speech recognition is not being done on the device, other than the wake-up word, right? So if you're using Siri to dictate your text messages, all this stuff's going to the cloud.
I think with the Google first one, Google Home, I think they didn't have the new button or something, if I remember correctly.
They do now.
They do now, yeah. The first version, it was on all the time. So anything you talk at home, Google
That
is
would be
listening.
cool. Yeah.
Right?
So for talk about like deleting your recordings, at least for Google, you can go into your account settings and delete whatever you want to do. And also at least with Android, I know about Google Home, they're pushing out a lot more processing to the local device.
Yeah, I can understand that you can do that to some extent,
It's
but like in the United States, how many languages are present in the United States? That's a lot. I just don't see them. I mean, the device would be like that $9,000 device from Nuance, from Dragon, at the beginning. It's just, you're going to have to load a lot of stuff on there and a lot of processing capability. It's so much easier to do it in the cloud. I'm not saying it can't be done. What I'm saying is I don't see how you make a business case out of it, right? So yeah, you raised your hand a while back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm waiting. So besides government and auto, what do you see as the kind of key industries for growth for you guys, or even as a whole for Alexa?
Well, in this kind of situation, I don't want to divulge who's talking to us, but I can tell you it's household names, right? If I say the names, you know who they are immediately. And some of them were surprising, right? One of them in particular was like, why do they want me to come and see them for? I got there and they had 40 audio engineers on staff, 20 of them working in one department. I was like, what? I didn't even know y'all had a microphone. is so these companies are all in a hot competition against each other,
Yeah.
right? Everybody's trying to get the voice space right now.
I think the big application is a smart home. I mean, you can talk to your refrigerator, you can talk to your TV, you can talk to your toaster. It's just, everything is trying to collect audio and figure
Yeah.
out whether it needs to do something.
Yeah, that's a hot space, right? And Amazon is just, I mean, they're launching another skill every 10 minutes and another device, it seems, every day that's connected to the Echo. Yeah, so.
Take one last question and then kind of wrap up, Keith. You know, this has been, I'm assuming, I think this was your second last slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if there's any last question, let's say Keith will be around. We actually have a meeting, Keith and we're jumping into a meeting, but Keith will be around for about 5 minutes if anybody has any questions. Last question.
Have you done anything where you've combined the IBM Watson with what you guys are doing at all?
No. But I would say that what we're doing is increasing that signal-noise ratio. We're making the speech clearer so that everybody else's voice processing stuff works tons better. Either goes from not working to working, or working okay to working great. Right? That's really where our sweet spot is, and that's what our focus is. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. The, you know, I think this is kind of one of those presentations. Keith can get very technical very fast, you know, and I told him, I said, don't do that because, you know, the charts and that kind of thing, which is great. The next presentation, so we kind of, for you guys have been here before, they kind of oscillate between technical topics and business topics. The next topic is hearing from Ceteris, the founder of Ceteris, Levi Morehouse. So I think it's important basically for people to understand when you're around, you know, what separates kind of an entrepreneur from a wantrepreneur basically. And this guy's basically lived it, you know, all the ups and downs and everyone from raising capital to getting rid of people to running a business to locate, that kind of thing. So he's super sharp. So he'll be presenting on basically the growth of Ceteris as a startup. And I just noticed he's on the Inc. 5000 list somewhere down there. But so that'll be the topic for next month if anybody's interested. I don't know how we're going to do this. It's the first time we're doing it, but there are 4 sponsors. It's been organized actually by Medion for the first time ever, basically in our, since 2001 history. We're doing a Geektoberfest. So basically, it's all local breweries, microbreweries. So it's just going to be. They really, you know, I think that by design they really want more of the technical people rather than, you know. So that's coming up in September, and somebody's like, why are we doing Geektoberfest in September? I didn't ask the question because I was thinking the same thing. So I went on and Googled Oktoberfest, and basically Oktoberfest runs. The end of Oktoberfest is October 7th, so it really runs all through September. So I learned something from Geektoberfest, I guess. You know, so that little piece. But I appreciate all of you coming out. If you just click, you know, Fridays at charlestondigitalrecorder.com or Fridays at digitalrecorder.org, you know, you can kind of request topics. So we kind of like to, you know, we like to make them very relevant to what you guys want to hear about, and you know, we can change it up. And the nice thing is, I mean, if you look at Keith with his 4 patents, he's sitting at kind of the front edge. You know, doesn't really want to be found because of his life, you know, which still is more B2G, but now it's starting to shift a little bit. So there are some highly competent people in this town, unfortunately, who, you know, we tap into, but we don't do it not in a bad way. We don't do it in a chamber way. We kind of do it in a more private, you know, sort of curated way. So if there's topics that you guys want, you know, then just kind of let us know and we can kind of bring them forward. September, October. So we've got 2 more beyond Levi, and you know, and again, kind of let us know. I appreciate you coming and driving on all the way from Claflin.
Yeah.
And you know, and I'd mentioned this. We have you know, I'm blanking your name now. You know, Megan. So Megan's taken, and you know, we've got an introductory code cam class. So this is for the sort of the non-technical folks who just got to know what it's all about and that kind of thing. It's 8 weeks. And we only do it 4 times a year, once per quarter. So we've got a class running right now. If any guys are interested, kind of let us know. And we've got an open house, and you know, one way to get 10% off, $50 off, is to come to the open house and then sign up, because you get the code to be in a sign up. So if anybody's interested, Megan was just telling me she's having fun with it as a non-technical person, but your brothers are all technical, so, you know. So I think so that's another thing. And I appreciate you guys coming out again, and thank you again, Keith. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.